A lot of times I think the actual comic book media is rooting against the comic book industry, even though technically you think that they're kind of reliant on comic books being good and being popular. It seems like they really like to champion on really stupid ideas. Today we have an example of that, and with me is my good friend Aaron Sparrow, comic book writer, editor, and writer from season 4 of Young Justice. How you doing, Aaron?
I'm doing great. I'm ready to solve all the world's problems with fictional superheroes. Let's do it.
This is one of these stupid ideas. I think a lot of people, they consider their heroes to be activists, like in the real world. So they want to see their superheroes, I guess, in fictional like universes be activists as well. So we got this really stupid headline. It's kind of alluding to that Mark Russell comic book where Red Tornado, I guess in the end, made some clean energy by making some wind or whatever. It's called DC's Heroes Can and Should Do More Than Fight Crime, as if fighting crime and saving people just isn't enough. They need to go in there and really solve all these real world problems that, quite frankly, you know, if you think about it from a writer's perspective, Aaron, if the DC universe like was our universe and we really had Superman and Mr. Terrific here, all these problems would have already been solved because they would have already done it already. That's why you can't really translate our universe into the DC universe. Sure, there should be some similarities. You know, the city will look the same. And yeah, there'll be some commonalities between the problems. But a lot of the core issues or things that we are experiencing in this world don't exactly translate over there because Superman would fix it or Mr. Terrific would fix it.
Or, you know, it's a world of super science and sorcery. And there's all sorts of things that could fix problem A or, you know, problem B. You know, there's that John Kent, Son of Kal-El cover where he's standing there with all the activists and it's stupid, we're going to fight climate change bullshit issue. And he's one of the kids there has a sign that says there is no Earth B. But in this universe, there is. There's an Earth B, there's an Earth C. You know, there's at least 52 other Earths that we could go to if this one craps out. There's places in space that we could go. Green Lantern could take us somewhere to a new planet that we could inhabit. You know, that's the ridiculousness of trying to apply some of these things to a superhero universe. It just doesn't work.
The idea that they only fight crime is pretty ridiculous. Yeah, there are some street level characters that tend to fight crime, but not even Batman really fights crime only anymore. Everything he deals with is some type of supernatural, biggest entity in the history of the world that's about to destroy everything. You know, Superman, he doesn't fight crime anymore. When's the last time you saw him go save somebody, you know, from a mugger? You know, he's out there, you know, fighting armies from other galaxies and stuff like that. And I think comic books should probably be embracing that and sticking to their core principles and core competencies, the types of stories that this medium really tells well, because these kind of heavy-handed, stupid activist-focused stories, they don't translate well into comic books because it's an action-based medium, and activism isn't action-based. Activism is a lot of bloviating and a lot of talking about how great you are, and it's a lot of virtue signaling, which does not come across well in a comic book, Eric. Or Aaron?
No, it doesn't. And, you know, okay, so yeah, Red Tornado, he created some wind and, you know, it activated some wind turbines and he created some clean energy. Is he supposed to stay in the sky the rest of his life generating that wind, so, you know, so that those turbines are turning? That sounds a lot like you're enslaving the character. Does he not get to have his own hopes and dreams and you know, go do the things that he wants to do and accomplish his own goals? Like, no, he just has to be there for you, you know, and whatever you think is important. It's this narcissism that has permeated this current generation that thinks that everything should be tailored to them. It drives me insane. There's absolutely no way that you can have a successful run of comic books that is just all about tackling real world issues with superheroes. It's silly. It doesn't actually change anything in the real world. And instead of devoting effort to writing articles about how superheroes should fix problems our real world problems in a fictional universe, why don't you personally get out there and do something? Oh, did you send out some tweets? Oh, I guess you did your part then, didn't you? No, you could be out at a soup kitchen right now and you could be helping the homeless. You could be, you know, working for different charities. You could be doing all sorts of things to make the world a better place. But no, instead you're going to put out an article bitching about how superheroes aren't making the world a better place in a universe that doesn't exist.
How much clean energy or not clean energy do you think an article and all the clicks and the ads that go on there ends up using in a day? I bet it's a lot of unclean energy that CBR themselves are probably, you know, wasting, you know, just having an article like this up. And then, you know, here, let's get serious. There's a story out there right now. I think if they made a story where Superman flew back in time and then he tackled slavery, I think some people would like that story. Don't you think, Aaron?
Yeah, I think so. If it was well done.
Of course, we would be apprehensive because we would assume that it's heavy-handed. But in the comic book universe, because you mentioned there are more than one Earths there are other worlds that you can go to. Guess who's making that comic book happen right here, right now? And nobody's championing it, even though you essentially have Superman going to another planet and freeing slaves. Philip Kennedy Johnson.
Yeah, and what has he done? He's taken a real-world problem. He's translated it to that universe, to that medium. He's moved it along. So it's not heavy-handed. The message is there. There's themes there that we can explore. And see, that's the way that it's supposed to be done. X-Men used to be a book about outsiders. It was designed for anybody who ever felt like they weren't part of the group, or they weren't part of normal society, or they just, they felt like they didn't really fit in. That's what made it have universal appeal. And that's what these people are forgetting, is when they narrow it down to something real world, they take away that universal appeal that everybody can understand. When you make things political, you're taking away so many avenues to actually reach people. The reason that stories work is because they speak to us on a deeper level. They go beyond the pettiness of the everyday, and they try to reveal something that's bigger and more interesting. And that's what Philip Kennedy Johnson is doing, and nobody's talking about it, and it's an absolute shame.
You can use this medium because it is so malleable to just go into other planets. You can very well explore the real world issues if it is an issue that the author feels like is very important. You can explore those, but you don't have to be so on the goddamn nose with it. You can actually use analogies. You can use thematic differences and explore these, and you can have the heroes tackle these issues. But you can make it exciting. You can still make it interesting. And you can still say something about things that are happening in our world. But once you do it the way that CBR and a lot of these other shill sites would like them to be, because you got to have everything period, point blank, it's got to be exactly like it is in our world, and the superhero has to handle it exactly how I think he should handle it, or he's a bad guy. And they just want to be spoon-fed these stories that essentially regurgitate how they feel about things. And you have somebody like a Philip Kennedy Johnson. He's giving a good story. He's tackling an issue that has been a problem for a very long time in this world, and he's doing it excellently, but he's not spoon-feeding them so they can't talk about it because it's not on the nose enough for him.
I try to imagine being so fragile and so small that I need a Superman comic book to validate my opinion or my feelings or my beliefs. This is the problem with the world today, is all this need to have all of your ideas validated by popular fiction. It's ridiculous. And for CBR to be out there like, oh no, all these heroes should be doing these things, instead of fighting crime. I don't want to read a story where Batman is cleaning up garbage in Gotham. I don't. That's not a compelling story to me.
Unless it's a new gang that's associated with the Joker, you know what I'm saying?
The garbage gang just going around and throwing McDonald's wrappers on the ground. Batman's going to clean up the city. There's definitely room for heroes to do these sorts of things, and they have done it in comics in the past, but it hasn't been directly on the nose. You go back to Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams doing Hard Traveling Heroes, and they were tackling issues, and those were a little bit on the nose, but they still kind of like did it in a more fantastic way that didn't bring the characters down to the small pettiness of the real world. They still were larger than life, and they were still kind of above it all, and they still told a compelling story. And that's a craft that seems to be lost. And I just wish that more of the writers today would try and figure out how to recapture that magic. Look at the things of the past and understand why they worked, and stop trying to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, I think it's time we start celebrating our heroes for being heroes and being good representations of morality and having principles and doing the right thing and going out there and saving people. Hey, do they have opinions on some of these things that are going on? I imagine a lot of these heroes do have opinions, but they've got more important things to deal with. The pay gap in India just isn't that important when you're Superman and you could literally go out there and save a planet full of slaves. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, exactly right. Let's not bring superheroes down to our level. This is why I had a problem with the Man of Steel movie, is because there's a group of people who were like, no, that movie was good because they made Superman more like us. And I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in us being more aspiring to be more like Superman. That's the point of heroic fiction, is to give us something bigger to aspire to. And when you bring these characters down, you mire them in the simple pettiness of politics and our modern society. You take something away from them, you devalue them. And ultimately, I think for a lot of these writers, that's the point. That's actually what they want to do. They want to tear down these icons and they want to make them small, because nothing is allowed to be larger than life anymore. Nothing is allowed to be aspirational. Everything has to be brought down so that somebody else, somebody who doesn't feel good about themselves, can now feel like they're on par with Superman.
Yeah, it's just the weirdest thing. And you have to have a Superman that represents every group. Like, Superman can't just represent everybody that wants to do good. He has to represent every group individually. So now you've got, like, you got to have new Superman to represent every single one of them. And it's like, listen, not every single hero has to fight for what you think is important, and not every single superhero has to have every single character trait that you have individually.
When I saw Into the Spider-Verse, I had never connected with Miles Morales as a character in the comics. It's like in Ultimate Spider-Man, he was pretty good. And I liked the book, but I hadn't really connected with him. Bendis never really got me there. And when I saw Into the Spider-Verse, I really connected with Miles, and I liked him, and he became a character that I care about in the context of those films. In the comics, he's still not a character that I care about, because since then he's been very bland and just a very, very, very mild Morales, if you will, because they're really afraid to do anything with him. But in the movie, he had hopes, he had dreams, he had aspirations. He failed. He basically had an element of tragedy that was added to his backstory. And it was all done so much better than they handle him in the comics, that I identified with him. I have no idea what it's like to be a teenage black kid. I don't. But there was plenty there in that character that I could identify with as a human being. And that's what we need to be doing. We need to get past this idea that you have to have the same skin color as a character, or the same ethnic background, or the same religious beliefs, or the same sexuality. You don't need any of that. What you need is a basic humanity that you can connect with, and then you can root for that character.
I've had a lot of conversations about these types of things. I talked to RJ from the Fourth Age not too long ago about a lot of the issues playing comic books, why they try to destroy heroes. This was really enlightening. It's a little bit longer, but definitely check this out. RJ's a great guy. He's got a great channel, and we had a really good conversation.